Alright, here you have my brand new Nokia 6120 Classic smartphone from Singapore of all places. Not available here in the States, not even available in many parts of Europe, so you have to look pretty far to find one right now, but it is on the market. This is, as Nokia will tell you, the smallest S60 device. Very thin. You can see that it's very small, although my hands are clearly very big. This device is really a nice size to hold in my hand. As a point of comparison, here's my aging W600i. A very thick device without probably half the capabilities of the 6120 Classic. Their length and width are very similar, but clearly much thinner, much more easily pocketed. The 6120 Classic has a fairly standard key layout, as most people who have ever seen a cell phone will recognize. You have your directional pad here with your menu button, with your action button in the center. On the sides, you have your soft buttons that correspond to the menu options here and here. You can see that they're slightly offset from those menu options, which is a departure from most phones, but I find a welcome one because they're closer to where your thumb is likely to be. I do, however, sometimes have trouble hitting these buttons. I have to use my thumbnail instead of the tip of my thumb because they're so small. The number pads press easily even with my rather large fingers. You can see that on the top you have a self-pointed camera, which is totally useless in the United States unless you just want to use it as a mirror. Here in some other parts of the world you can make video phone calls, whatever. Don't need that crap. On the bottom of the phone you have on the left your standard USB mini jack. Does not come with a data cable, but you probably don't need it because if you have a MP3 player or a camera or any sort of device that uses this standard jack, you'll already have the cable lying around somewhere. And the center is a not exactly standard, but easily converted 2.5 millimeter headphone jack. Buy a converter for $10, plug it in, and then you can use your standard headphones with this device. On the far right, you have a very small charging port. Happens to use the same charger as my Nokia N800, so now I have two. That's handy. On the back side of the phone, you have your 2.5 megapixel camera. It takes decent pictures. You have a pretty crappy flash up above it. It's LED based. It works kind of, but it's obviously no substitute for a real camera like the N95, for example. You can see that the back here has this glossy finish, which looks very attractive at first, but has clearly already picked up some fingerprints. I tried wiping it off, and then they just come right back. So, unless you keep your hands washed all the time, this is going to pick up fingerprints, and that's just something to be aware of. On the top, you have a little power button, no surprise there. On the other side, you have your up and down rocker for your volume/zoom. I wish this functioned in more places in the Symbian UI. Like, for example, in the browser, it doesn't zoom a page in the browser for some reason. It seems to only work in things that have a volume control and the camera, of all things. So I'm a little disappointed in the functionality on that. Seems like it's wasted. Over here we have the camera button, which activates the camera wherever you are and takes a snapshot. Camera very responsive. Probably even faster to get to camera taking mode than my actual camera is. Of course, my camera has to open the shutter first, which this obviously does not have, but much faster than the W600i and much faster than pretty much any other cell phone I've used in terms of turnaround time to getting a picture taken. On the opposite side, you have your little itty-bitty port for your micro SD card, and to the left you have a hole which you could attach. You could run a lanyard or some very small type device through there to attach it to a bracelet or something of that nature. The micro SD port was recessed very far. You have to have either very small fingers or some sort of device to insert it all the way. It caught me at first. I thought it was all the way in. It wasn't. It didn't work. Had to go grab some tweezers and push it in the rest of the way. Now, when you release the micro SD card, you probably need tweezers to get it back out. It's way recessed in there. Up here you have your little speaker. Does a pretty good job for the size. Monaural only, unfortunately, unlike the W600i, which was stereo. But I find that this puts out a higher volume sound and generally sounds better. Stereo on a device like this is pretty meaningless anyway, since you don't have much separation. Alright, well that's the basics. You can find more information out on the interwebs or check out my site and I'll give you some additional thoughts on what I think about this phone. Thank you very much.